your heart for years. We want to welcome you if you have been on this walk from the beginning, or if you have just recently joined in, or if you're just here for the night. We welcome you if your feet are smooth and clean, or if your feet are calloused and bruised. We welcome you if your body is a place you feel at home, or if your best days are kind of an uneasy truce with your body. We welcome you if you are a morning person or a night person. We welcome you if you are a Democrat, Republican, or neither. We welcome you if you are gay or straight, or if neither of those labels describe who you are. We welcome you if you're a person of faith, or if you're not. We welcome you if your skin is the color of pine, or cedar, or walnut, or ebony. We welcome you if your disabilities are where others can see them, or if your disabilities are harder to see. We welcome you if you are older, and we thank you for your wisdom and your energy. We welcome you if you are younger, and we thank you for your wisdom and your energy. We welcome you if you are a woman, or a man, or neither of those words fit you. We welcome you if you are wounded and healing, and trying to recover your strength. And we welcome you if you are feeling strong, and trying to figure out where to use your resources. We welcome you if you are transitioning out of something and mourning what is lost. And we welcome you if you are moving towards something exciting and trying to discern its shape, or if you're unsure of exactly where you are. We welcome you if you feel like many of these words describe you, or none describe you at all. Each of you is welcome here. All of you is welcome here. And most importantly, all of each of you is welcome here.
We're going to do a prayer of confession as a song. So you'll repeat after me, and then we'll sing it all together as one. So, Holy God, Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and mighty, oh, holy immortal one, oh, holy immortal one, have mercy on us. Have mercy on us. We do it all together. You want to do it? Repeat again. All together. All together. Holy God, holy and mighty. Holy immortal one, have mercy on us. At the simplest level in pre-settlement times, Illinois had two watersheds, the Mississippi River and Lake Michigan, with almost the entire state draining into the Mississippi, except for a small area within a few miles of the lake. This has been complicated by modifications around Lake Michigan, humans taking God's good creation and changing, making the lake itself to some extent a part of the Mississippi watershed. The Little Wabash River is a 240-mile-long tributary off of the Wabash River. It is the third largest tributary after the White River and the Imbros.
The history of the United States and the history of American Christianity includes the painful history of colonialism. We are settlers on this land that does not belong to us. We acknowledge that we are gathered today on the hunting grounds and homelands of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Miami, and the Illinois peoples. These people have used this land since time immemorial and continue to do so in the present. We offer them our gratitude and respect and hope in solidarity with them to strive for justice, for our planet, and for all people.
Reading scripture from Isaiah chapter 43, verses 1 through 7. But now, thus says the Lord, He who created you, O Jacob, He who formed you, O Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I give Egypt as your ransom, Ethiopia and Seba in exchange for you. Because you are precious in my sight and honored, and I love you, I give people in return for your nations in exchange for your life. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bring your offspring from the east, and from the west I will gather you. I will say to the north, give them up. The south, do not withhold. Bring my sons from far away, my daughters from the end of the earth. Everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, whom I formed and made. This is the word of the Lord.
So tonight, Abby Brockway, who's one of the walkers, is going to be teaching us about her experience in Seattle and as a member of the Delta 5. And before she teaches us and talks to us about her experience, we're going to watch a video called Abuela de Video. And those of you who are joining us by Zoom, you will be able to experience all of it without sound because there are no words. There's some music and the cricket sings some, but there are no words. So you'll be able to experience it just as we do. So I think we're ready.
Otra. Mi balde.
So I've been invited to speak at this teach-in, which when I first was asked and then started walking with all the people here, it's always uncomfortable to tell your own story when you hear so many amazing stories like why me. This has happened many times since I've taken an action with the Delta 5, and I'll explain to you what that was all about. But I'm just going to start out taking you through a little bit about where I was and how I came to block a train and go to jail. I think it started in about 2011. My favorite place to go with my daughter and my husband is to Carkeek Park. It's a beautiful place that's in the city, but it feels like you're in the Cascade Mountains with the pine needles on the carpet floor and trees all around. You hike down, and there's an open field, and there's a play structure where my daughter would play. She'd swim down this salmon slide, and when the ground started to vibrate, we knew it was time to, hold her hand, and we'd run to this area that is a bridge where the trains come by, and so it's like a free ride. You would be there, and the wind would blow, and the train would pass right under you. It was just inches of clearance between the bridge. It was absolutely a thrill. And on that bridge, you could see the Salish Sea. It was beautiful, Puget Sound. So if you wanted to go to the beach, you were right there. And one day we started to see different cargo on these trains. It wasn't just Boeing parts to engines, wings and nose cones, or lumber from Canada. It was miles of these open cars of black coal. I really was blown away. They were just really, really long. And at the same time, I went to a community center, and there was the Sierra Club was putting on a thing about coal. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I had just seen these coal cars. What is that? What is this all about? Michael Bloomberg had given the Sierra Club $80 million to fight coal. And what the
Sierra Club did is partner with other organizations to put this program together, PowerCast Poll. And this coalition really went out and educated people that knew nothing about what was about to happen. This was just the beginning of fossil fuels just moving through the West Coast and places all over the country, but particularly the West Coast and Texas are key places in getting this fossil fuel that is being harvested at a great rate in America and actually North America and Canada to export to China and other places. And I really didn't know what I was getting into when I learned more and more about coal and how it's now standing on that railroad trestle. I worried about the coal dust. It's amazing how many pounds of coal dust is emitted from these moving through the country. And so I realized it wasn't healthy for us to stand there. And that was just like that, the physical manifestation of that was. It symbolized so much more. So actually, I started to ask myself after trying with these, I think Washington State and Canada had defeated like 24 projects, and we were going from hearing to hearing. We were getting really good at it. For 2 minutes, we were able to say what we wanted to say. The people that were listening to us knew us by name practically. We knew who was sitting on the green side, which was labor, and the blue side, which was environmentalists. And after a while, we all got to know each other better, and we didn't just sit on the same sides. We didn't need to worry about that. We actually started partnering with each other and finding out how we could actually work together instead of, it got boring to testify against each other, hear each other's spiel at the same time year after year. Started to question, what does it mean to be obedient, and who to? Is it actually as a citizen to be following all the rules? I mean, my daughter was growing up, and I had to tell her, you got to question authority. Rules are good, but really, who are you called to obey? And as Christians, there's a stereotypical feeling of that we do the right thing and we're quiet and not just, we have this vision of a Christian as being this law-abiding, non-problematic person. But I think we realized, all the groups that I was working with, that time was running out. I wrote a letter to President Obama. He wrote me back. Yeah, I know he didn't write it, but I got the climate policy, and it said in there, we actually are going to try to become liberated from foreign oil, and so we're going to actually make sure that we produce our own oil and our own energy, our gas, fracked gas, coal. We're going to fuel our country. Well, our area found out that, I think there were like 15 trains a day proposals that are happening. So more oil than our region can burn by a ton. And we realized it wasn't staying here. It was definitely being shipped away. So after being frustrated with the executive branch, going to our capital and trying to get bills passed, and just having these little tiny victories, which you could tell is going to take millions of years, it's going to be too late. And so I guess I just want to show the video of that kind of will tell who was involved in the Delta 5. It's going to be a little bit backwards on how you're going to learn about what happened, but that's how we're going to do it. So I'd love to be able to show this video that was made to help people be invited to the trial that was happening. The action happened on Labor Day of 2014, and our trial was January of 2016. And so we're ready. Yeah.
I'm Patrick Mazza.
I am Mike LaPointe.
I'm Abby Brockway. Liz Sperry.
Jackie Minshew.
And we are the Delta 5!
My name is Mike LaPointe, and I'm one of the owners of the Firewheel Community Coffee House. I'm also a member of the Delta 5 group, which is going to trial on January 11th to answer the charges that we put a tripod in front of an oil train and blocked it from moving for 8 hours.
My name's Abby Brockway, and I'm a mother and a wife. My husband and I own a small business, and I'm a Presbyterian.
My name is Jackie Minshew. I'm a retired music teacher. The fact that we have mile-long oil trains coming through our town really is stressful in that we know they blow up. I'm doing things I never thought I would do, and I'm frankly pretty glad about it.
My name is Patrick Mazza. I've been a professional climate activist since 1998. I really felt I needed to move beyond just sitting in front of a computer to sitting in front of a train.
I'm Liz Sperry. I'm an assistant middle school teacher in Seattle. I chose to do that because I really can't handle the image of this beautiful place being a massive carbon corridor. The thought of us taking this place and using it as a vehicle to export carbon, which will impact so many people worldwide with so many painful, devastating consequences, bothers me a great deal. And as citizens, those of us that don't want this to happen, we really have to speak up and be creative and be public and be visible and do new things to make our voices heard, because no one else will do it.
We have to act now. There's not time to wait for politicians to protect us. I met a lot of politicians along the way, and each individual said, I hear what you're saying, but there's nothing that I can do. I feel powerless as your representative. It's always some other agency that has the power, and I can't accept that. That led me to go in front of a train and stop it. And that was the first time I actually felt like I was being heard, that we were telling people what we were concerned about, and people were actually listening to us.
We are at a point in our history where if we don't take a stand for ourselves, for working people, for the people of the planet, we're not going to have a planet.
We don't have a lot of time here to waste.
Our backs really are up against a wall, and our options are now to not participate in business as usual, but to actually take the next step.
I'm doing this for my daughter. My daughter asks, well, you know, Dad, is there hope for the world? And, you know, you got to have a positive answer for that. And my positive answer is that I'm going to act directly for our children's world.
Our trial starts January 11th. I urge everybody who can to come down and check it out. Show your support, not just for us, the Delta 5, but for standing up against climate change and the giant fossil fuel industries that have brought it to us and continue to try to get that last drop of oil, that last chunk of coal out of our planet.
We are the Delta 5!
We'll be here all week.
So I'm going to just take you, this was trying to get people to turn out to our trial. We got the luck of the draw for our judge, who was amazing. He was a young man named Judge Howard, and he allowed a documentary crew to come into the courtroom. He didn't have to. We told him that a lot of people were coming, so he actually switched buildings. So the jurors actually had to drive 20 minutes closer to Seattle to accommodate a large group of people in the courtroom, and people had to rotate in and out during the time, and the entire building was full of supporters, and everybody that came in contact with all these people were changed, just like when we're walking through the towns and people see us and interact with us, they're changed. Same with the action. During the action, the training, they tell you, no, don't talk to the police officers, don't chat when you're in the jail cell about what you did, don't do this, don't do that. The guy that strapped me is Officer Mars. I love Officer Mars. when he was handcuffing me, I could see he had the name of 3 of his daughters on his wrist. So I knew we were both parents. And on the way there, he said, "You did a good job. You sang beautifully. There hasn't been a protest like this in a really long time. And we would have let you stay up there more, but there was a thunderstorm coming and we didn't want you to get hurt." And even in the jail, I was told to smile for the mugshot in case on TV it doesn't make you look guilty when your mugshot appears. And that just surprised all of the guards. They were just passing the mugshot around, and it just, I think, endeared them. In jail, the women asked what Liz and I were there for, because of course the women were separated from the men. And when we told them, they were so lit up and so excited. And there was a story in the paper, so in the morning they showed the paper around, and they're like, "You're in the paper!" And they're not supposed to pass it around, but it was just this hope that I can't explain to you. But and I won't get distracted, but when I left, I really just wanted to talk about the prison situation. And I know everything's connected, but this injustice that just leads through all the issues is so connected. And I do see that dominance, whether it be building corporations or powers that be that try to crush our spirits. And it's up to ourselves to, cling to each other. So what I'd like to do, and I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I'm going to tell you the sermon that I said the day before the trial. Our church had a Climate Justice Sunday, and the Delta 5 came and pastor gave us a blessing. There was a Buddhist, a Universal, a Yugu, me. So all of different faiths. One person didn't come because they didn't feel comfortable in the faith building. But the magical thing was, during my time at church, I would say, "Hey, I need a meeting space. Our climate people are meeting, and we're doing civil disobedience." And they're like, "As long as you're peaceful and civil, yes, you can use the space." But they would never come on Sunday. It wasn't like they felt comfortable to worship on Sunday. I would mention it and stuff, but most people, as far as organized religion, they're very suspicious of it. It's a very eclectic group that I was working with. But on Climate Justice Sunday, they were coming to support the Delta 5. They came into our church space, and the activists in my church family got to meet each other for the first time, and my lives have been so separate. And the service was so moving because they were so surprised by what we do on a Sunday morning in this building, not feeling comfortable in that space, but realizing how beautiful it was, that what we were doing. It's not what they imagined in their head, and I think that was the biggest blessing of this whole thing, is to kind of have my lives merge and for people to know it. So the scripture that was read today, just to remind you, was Isaiah 43, 1-7, a lesson from a prophet. In December of 2015, leaders representing over 190 countries converged in Paris for the 21st Annual United Nations Conference on Parties, also known as COP. For the first time in 20 years, the Paris talks sought to achieve a universal agreement on climate. The countries each submitted their commitments to lower carbon emissions in an attempt to reach a new global deal with the goal to contain the global temperature rise to 1.5 to 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. The low-lying island nations of the world had developed a slogan, 1.5 to stay alive, because these were the vulnerable nations that would be first to disappear from the sea rise if the world did not act soon. To set the tone for the conference, many individuals and groups did all they could to make sure that leaders of the world knew the conference had to be different than the last 20 UN meetings. This had to be the time when countries became leaders and submitted strong commitments to the world to meet the carbon emissions and greenhouse gas reductions that science requires. This had to be the year when countries would not only pledge large reductions, but also to follow through and ratify their commitments for the first time ever. It was time to be faithful and collective. In September of 2014, 400,000 people marched for the People's Climate March in New York City, along with over 160 other countries that participated in their own solidarity actions around the world. People came together to send the message that to change everything, it will take everyone. They were demanding jobs, good jobs, justice, and clean energy for all. 8 months later, in May of 2015, Pope Francis gave the world a gift with his encyclical Divest on care for our common home, which was written not only for the leaders of the Catholic Church, but for every person living on this planet. The Pope sounded the alarm for the Church and the world to acknowledge the urgency of our environmental challenges and to join together to take swift action and unified global action toward a new path. Pope Francis persuasively argued that we must protect our home and care for each other. Sorry, I'm trying to say this fast. In our text today, Prophet Isaiah is eager to convey how God is an amazing protector, so powerful that through flood and through flame, the people would be protected. Isaiah was moved to convey how the people were loved so deeply. They are precious, and there's no reason for the people to fear because God had their back. The only requirement is that people must have deep felt faith that God is with them. With this knowledge, it seemed that all was good. Who wouldn't want to be on that team? But under the surface of this song of praise, it seemed that God is disappointed with God's people, who have collectively gone astray because they were not living the lives they were created to live. The people just didn't seem to get that. Perhaps they knew too well that God loved them deeply and they could do no wrong. But trouble ensues when Babylonian superpowers drive them from their homelands, and only the vulnerable, those too poor to flee, are left behind in Judah. It was the prominent citizens that were deported from their land. The Babylonian ruler, King Nebuchadnezzar, was a powerful ruler focused on building his kingdom by dominating his people, as many rulers do at this time. The king needed to destabilize his people so he could harness their power and use their gifts and talents to build up his impressive empire. The people endured separation and suffering as they tried to hold on to the hope that God was with them. As time went on, the people started to lose everything, including their sense of place and familiar connection to their land, and they had trouble finding strength to carry on, and things got tedious. They grew wearier by the day as losses piled up and the last glimmers of hope faded. They needed to find something they could hold on to. The fact that God was supposedly with them and would save them seemed all they had left. There was nothing left to do but wait. In Washington state, we have noticed that the powers and principalities are swiftly moving in to develop a massive fossil fuel corridor in the Pacific Northwest to funnel more oil than our country can burn. The oil industry noticed that we, the people, were able to use a protection law in the law that made sure that energy resources for produced in this country would stay in this country. This protection was known as crude oil export bans, and the ban had been in place for 4 years. President Obama explained that his energy policy was giving the U.S. a chance at energy independence by producing our own energy, freeing ourselves from foreign oil and ramping up oil production domestically in the short term. We use it as a bridge fuel while letting the new sustainable energy infrastructure catch up. Meanwhile, lobbyists in D.C. instructed Congress to lift the ban, and soon the 40-year ban to export crude was lifted, helping to create a new market in another part of the world for North Dakota's Bakken crude. Many of us who were actively defending the West Coast from big oil knew this protection would soon be taken away, and that the oil companies and railroads would become the superpowers, building their empire along the West Coast, proposing over 24 fossil fuel expansion projects in order to increase profits. And the railroad and oil companies had to dominate its people who were afraid if they spoke up about safety and that they might be exiled from their jobs. This heavy-handed top-down approach of doing business caused fear in other employees, signaling them to be silent and do what they're told. And this was achieved by keeping industry-friendly representatives in seats on both sides of the aisle, waging vigorous re-election campaigns against politicians that dared to challenge the status quo, sending the message to all: if you speak out against the powerful industries, you might not be exiled. The story sounds familiar, as powers and principalities oppress the people and keep them deeply entrenched in old ways. Science has told us our window for change must happen now, yet people that have been working to make change have felt the losses pile up, and at times we become discouraged. Some people feel like there is no way to take on these powerful entities, so why even waste time trying? Some believe it's too late, and it's easy to get discouraged. We get fatigued and overwhelmed. We have other pulls on our time. We're caring for aging parents. We raise our children. Our friends need our support. We need to earn money to pay our bills, and our community has needs. We need to take care of ourselves, and we should have some fun along the way too. How can a person feel like they can make a difference? Suddenly our individual gifts and talents don't seem big enough to overcome whatever cause we're trying to change. We often look for and wait for a leader or some hero to come. We hope someone or something can save us. We mourn for those leaders that we have lost. If only Harriet Tubman were alive, or Grace Lee Boggs. Perhaps Dr. Reverend William Barber will be the one to lead us, picking up where Martin Luther King left off. Then we have to have a leader to lead us to justice and take back our own power. And we continue to wait. We wait for technology to catch up. Just as soon as that battery is developed to store more energy, or to engineer a process to capture and carbon that we emit, putting faith in sequestration. We give it a few years. We need not change. We will just continue on and wait for the solution. We let ourselves off the hook, just like the exiled Jews of Babylon, waiting for God to save them. We look for the modern-day hero of some form that can lead us back to our homeland. On Labor Day of 2014, I and 4 others, along with a large team of supporters, erected an 18-foot tripod structure on railroad tracks blocking a parked mile-long oil train that was on its way to a refinery north of Seattle. The rail yard was called the Delta Rail Spur, and we became known as the Delta 5. We were arrested, went to jail, and charged with both trespassing and blocking the train. We did this because we believe we are in extraordinarily difficult times. We didn't do this to become a hero. We did this because we saw trouble. We were compelled to move toward the trouble so that we could tell the truth. We felt we had to trespass on those who were trespassing against us because we saw no other alternatives we could do to stop what is happening to the generations that come after us. Each of us have come to points in our lives where we simply could not be complicit any longer. We did this to shed light on the darkness. We did this because we learned from others that have acted before us, and we know that it is what love looks like. Isaiah reminds us, even when all seems lost, we must not be afraid. The prophet says we must not be afraid, but he does not say, do not feel afraid. We are human and we feel fear. We feel fear. To be fearful are two very different things. When we feel fear, we breathe it in and we breathe it out. We notice it. We feel the fear and we move through it. Let that be our signal to pay attention, to become awakened. How then can we act upon the fear? We cannot be afraid to make the changes that we want to see, even if the problem is so big that we cannot see the solution. We no longer have the luxury to linger in our fear. We cannot be afraid to act. We cannot be afraid of trouble. It is the trouble that transforms us. It draws us each to each other, and as people of faith, we know that even though we cannot see the solution, we are partnering with God. So, I'm not that great a speaker. But I try, and I do things that scare me. not worrying about, I'm not afraid to look awkward. And I didn't grow up in the church. I think that's made me a little bit, I don't know, not always following the rules in the process. And so that, I think coming in with a fresh eye on a lot of different things has caused me to ask, why are we doing it this way? I went to a conference and a Quaker spoke as the keynote speaker, and he asked this interfaith group, what does it look like in your faith tradition to do something like civil disobedience? What does that look like? And you don't have to literally think of, okay, that means we're getting arrested. I'm thinking about what that means. And we're doing it right now. The walkers are doing it right now. We are evangelizing, which people like us don't do very well. If you're thinking of it in a literal term, but this is easy for us. Although it's very physically difficult, it's natural for us to move through and be who we are in places that we don't think like those people oftentimes. And I'm seeing this as such a powerful witness and such a radical thing. This is sitting on a tripod, what we're doing, walking from Louisville to St. Louis. And when we think of the things such as Trump being elected and all the losses that have happened, such as going to the General Assembly 2 times and losing, it's the patiently waiting together that has caused such a powerful movement to grow. We would have won right away if we would have had a president that satisfied us enough. We wouldn't be marching in the streets. We wouldn't have had the Me Too movement. We wouldn't have had the Women's March. We wouldn't have had the March for Science. We wouldn't have walked from Louisville to St. Louis. And it's in these places where God is. And I'm so grateful to be with you all. And the love just gets deeper and deeper, and we get more powerful. And even if we, when we win in our divestment campaign, we will be poised and connected to the next thing, and we have to wait at what God calls us to do and be patient and pay attention to whatever that looks like. And so you can't unrelate ourselves. We can't unhook each other. And we are only getting powerful as we walk towards General Assembly with growing community. I just feel really lucky to be with you all. I'm just going to end with a poem from Drew Dellinger. It's 3:23 in the morning and I'm awake because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, and birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protest when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew?
Let us pray. Holy One, Holy Three, you brought us these 108
miles. You've kept us going. You've brought us new energy. You've brought us wonderful teachers. And we thank you. You have partnered with us to help to build this movement, for us to do what we can as we see that the seasons are failing. We see that the earth is sundered. We ask you to continue with us, stay with us on this journey as we keep walking wherever we are. Stay with us as we go to St. Louis and as we go to bed tonight. Give us rest and energy for the journey. And be with us as we continue marching on, hoping to do your work in this world. All God's children said. Amen. Thank you, Abby, so much. Thank you, virtual walkers, for being with us. Yeah, we hit 100 miles today, and that was really exciting. So thank you for being with us all over the country and for walking with us wherever you are. I think we're going to end with a song. Yeah. So let's sing. The peace of the earth be with you, the peace of the heavens too. The peace of the rivers be with you, the peace of the oceans too.